episode number 89. Stay tuned. Hey, y'all. So today I want to discuss when you feel exhausted, put out, exacerbated, you're at your wit's end because maybe your children are still not responding to you, reacting to you. They're not showing you love in the way that you think that they should. This is such just a common thing, right? When is enough enough? Is it time to throw in the towel? I can't take the abuse anymore. It's just too much pain to deal with. When can I just cut ties completely? I need to save myself and get out of this. You know what I'm talking about? And so I want to address that right now in hopes that if that is you, right? If you have even just an inkling of that mindset going on or the questioning in your mind about it, I mean, it's normal, right? I understand it. We all, I think, understand this so well, right? Feeling used and abused, rode hard, put away wet, and, devalued, undermined, disrespected. It's definitely a common experience when we're going through something like this. But I think that there are some contributing factors. I want to simplify this whole thing for you. And if you're at the brink, right? If you're feeling like you can't take it anymore, or it's just so much that it stresses you out, you're losing hours of your days. One of my clients said to me this morning, the silence is deafening. You're ruminating about that and finding all the things that are wrong with the fact that your children are alienated and you are in this situation. I just want to simplify this a little bit, help you to recenter and redirect your mind, right? And your focus. And then also I want to address some other things pertaining to alienation as a whole that have been coming to a head for me personally. And then, of course, obviously will affect you if you're listening to this show regularly. So I'm going to get to that in just a few minutes. But for right now, I want to focus on this other thing, which could be very well affecting your experience of, for my moms out there, Mother's Day that just passed. For my Father's Day is coming around the corner, just the end of this week. Especially around holidays and graduation and Mom's Day, Dad's Day, and then of course we have Christmas. I mean, like I said, there's always some occasion that no matter what time of year it is, usually that we can look to and have this sort of reminder, and questions pop up in our heads, like when we're faced with not getting a call for Father's Day, right, coming up. You really wanted to see them or have a court hearing set before Father's Day so that you could see them, talk with them on the phone. And maybe that's not happening, or the odds don't seem to be, quote unquote, in your favor at the moment. I want to help you to manage your mind, manage your expectations around that. I did notifications on my phone multiple times a day for posts like, enough is enough. Should I just give up? Who here has let go, has cut their kids off? They can't take the pain anymore, the abuse of this, that. And every time I see these posts, I get like, I'm hesitating to say frustrated. Yeah, it is a little bit of frustration for y'all, for whoever's making this post, and frustration for your whole situation and your families. Because I know that when I read one of those headings, knowing that that's the subject, it tells me that you are unnecessarily suffering, if this is you, and that you have forgotten, or at least this portion of you, this emotional part of your brain, the one that's writing this post, has been misled and is believing a lie. And so that's basically what I'm going to tell you, is that just like when we say to ourselves, I don't know why this is all happening. I don't know why my kids aren't calling me back. I don't know why my kids are so mean, why they're rejecting me. I don't know why, la, 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 la. Yeah, you do know why. You do know why. And we have a whole pathology to explain it, right? There's a term for it. There's a whole slew of information and research to explain to you exactly why this is all happening. The same thing when it comes to you feeling like you just can't take it anymore. You can't take the rejection anymore. It's too hard on you. You shouldn't have to endure this. And I know that I sound like I'm being a jerk or judgmental. That's just the way I feel it for you when I see the notifications for those posts, because it must be taxing to think of it that way, that you just can't take it anymore. It is human to have this function inside of you, right? Trying to protect you from harm, mostly your ego, that is telling you that you shouldn't have to handle this. This rejection is nobody should deal with this, and you should cut yourself off from them, and they should just live their life separately and you live yours and just get on with it. And it's too painful to continue to live knowing that you haven't gotten closure from them, right? You haven't drawn a boundary. That's usually what the gist of this messaging that you might have inside of you is, right? And I just want to offer you that, yeah, it's a lie. When your children reject you, and I know that you know this, but this is where you have to be diligent with your mind, like your conscious, unconscious thinking. When your children reject you, when they don't call you back, when they tell you fuck off via text, when whatever they're doing or not doing, they're not doing it because of you and what you've done. Now, I will say that we can take responsibility for the things that we might have done to play a role and contribute to the dynamic of alienation and the dynamic of your parent-child relationship. We'll talk about that in a minute. But as far as them rejecting you, being whatever to you, their behavior towards you or their lack thereof, it's not about you actually. It speaks more to the pathology and the dysfunction of the parent or adult who is working to stand between you and your children, right? That's where this is coming from. It's not actually a personal attack on you. You may feel it personally, but the reason that you feel it personally is because you're not actively using your prefrontal cortex to explain to the emotional part of your brain that, yo, this is not a personal attack. Like, attention, all employees. This is not a personal attack on us. This speaks to what the alienating parent is feeding to the child. So, in all reality, you are not actually enduring anything more than the story that you're attaching to their behavior. If you decide that this is a sickness, it is a pathology, there is a dynamic that is dysfunctional within the family, it is much easier to look at the situation, your children, how they're behaving, with more objectivity and compassion as well, which I know kind of contradict each other, but it's true. You can look at it and say, okay, this isn't about me. And I kind of feel for the situation. You can look at it in almost like a clinical way, even as a personal situation, because you know it's not about you. It's like when you see an alcoholic behaving or drug addict that's behaving erratically, and you know that they're under the influence of this drug or this alcohol or whatever it is, right? It's the same thing with the alienating parent. The reason that they're doing what they're doing has everything to do with their own imbalance, right? With their own pathology. And now I'm saying this as a coach, not as a psychologist, not as a social worker even, okay? I'm saying this as a coach and my own research about all of this. So know that sometimes my terms may be wrong, but you get the idea. What I'm saying is that the only thing that you have to endure is your own story about what's happening outside. That is the only thing. And so if you decide you want to commit yourself to a story that helps you in advocating for your kids and seeing the situation from a more objective point of view, you will have much easier time, quote unquote, enduring their rejection of you, right? Enduring their mistreatment of you. The thing is that as adults, we cannot be abandoned. We cannot be even mistreated if we know something has happened and we are capable of removing ourselves from a situation. Does that make sense? If we have the tools, and we do because we are still from afar, in most cases anyway, like you're not in physical danger and you can take care of yourself emotionally, right? Nobody can come and program you and your brain from afar. You can mentally, emotionally care for yourself. Then nobody can really take advantage of you. Nobody can really continually mistreat you. It's all in the way that you're looking at it and how much power you're giving away. So the reason why most parents feel like they need to cut off ties is because they're not recognizing their own power, standing in their own power in each and every situation. Maybe you know it on the forefront, like in your reasoning part of your brain, right? In your PFC, you know, oh, well, it's not personal. There's a situation going on. There's a pathology, and they're saying this because they're being programmed, they're being coerced by the alienating parent or person. And so you know it there, right? But if you don't fully believe it, and if you don't practice believing it, continuing to repeat that to yourself, that sort of mantra, to really know it and respond to the emotional part of your brain each time it wants to scream and jump up and down, then you're going to revert back to the old thinking. And that is why my clients, it's like they can't get off the hamster wheel of thinking, why won't my kids respond to me? I don't understand why they still want to blame me, why they still think that I'm not trustworthy or that they won't take my calls. Why am I still blocked by my children? And every time I have to re-ask them, you tell me why you're still blocked. Not to re-expose them or anything. They're fully capable adults, and that is the point. But instead, for them to practice and explain it to, like, from your PFC, from the reasoning conscious part of the brain, explain it to the emotional part of the brain, right? You know why. It's because there's a situation going on emotionally, mentally in the other home, right? You know that they're being coerced. You know that this is a pathology, right? But this back part of your brain starts to jump up and down. And because that's the subconscious part that runs you 95% of the time, then you're constantly going to be coming back to this until you learn how to effectively manage your mind. You're going to feel yourself running on fumes when you have been, it's like, I know that I've shared with you guys, or I've used the analogy before about how it's kind of like having willpower. Every day we only have so much brain power, so much willpower. And by the end of the day, when we're tired, when the brain is tired and it's not yet made the new belief the default, then it will revert back to the old way, the more comfortable, known way of thinking. So this is what you have to be aware of when you're in this place where you're at the brink and you want to throw in the towel and forget it. I'm sick of this abuse and they can just whatever. I just need closure. This isn't healthy for me. It's only unhealthy for you if you're believing what they're saying and you're believing that their words and their actions, non-actions, could actually harm you. Because no other human being can actually emotionally harm you if you are aware of what is happening. Do you know what I'm saying? When you have your own full sense of self and understand that you regulate your emotions and that nobody outside of you can actually regulate them for you, then you have full autonomy and nobody can tire you out emotionally. Okay? I really want to bring this home because it will bring you so much peace in the long run if you do practice this on the reg. And it will also cause you to feel steady, remain steady when showing up for your kids relentlessly without tiring at all. Because you know that it's not about you. The reason that we all get like, this is crazy, I can't take this anymore, is because you're getting butthurt because you're taking it personally, because in your mind, you have this idea that children shouldn't act this way. They shouldn't be this way. Ex-husbands or wives and step-parents shouldn't blah, blah, blah. You have all these rules about how it's supposed to be. Nobody else is living like this and I shouldn't have to. It's unfair. That is what is causing you to peter out. Those stories on top of it. We can't change the fact that they're doing what they're doing, right? But what we can do is advocate for ourselves and for our children in the most effective, steadfast way. Slow and steady wins the race, you know? You keep on and you keep taking care of yourself and your own mind, your own mental and emotional health, physical health as well. I promise you, your consistency will pay off. You cannot take what is happening as a personal attack on you. It's not. It has nothing to do with you. Yes, it affects you. But it's when you give into your extra story on top about what that means, because you can't do this. My child should respect me, blah, blah, blah. If you want to find some peace and you want to not feel at the effect of others, not feel so attacked and violated, that's the kind of story you have to drop. You have to let go of these expectations, unconscious expectations. They're like the ones that you don't even realize that you have. You're in the moment. And then you take those unconscious expectations as facts. Like, nope, kids should always respect their parents. I shouldn't have to deal with this. You state it as it's a fact because it's this long time, like, core belief of yours that is not serving you at all. And this is why you want to run for the hills, peter out, give up, find closure to your story. Here's the thing, and here's some tough love. I looked up the word parent. I looked up parenting roles, definition of, all the things. And nowhere does it say that the role of a parent is to receive love from their child. Nowhere does it say that the role of a parent is to feel accepted by their child. Nowhere. Nowhere does it say that a parent's role is to be invited to graduation and to receive calls from children when the parent believes it's necessary. Nowhere does it say that. And I know, I get you. I feel the same way you do. You know, I would love to receive calls, to be invited to graduations, to all of it. But that is not actually the role of a parent. And when you're telling yourself that you need to check out of your role, maybe the circumstances are not in the way that you thought that they would be, but you still are a parent and you can parent from afar. But when you're telling yourself that you need to check out on the role because the child isn't receiving you or isn't behaving in the way, isn't giving you the love that you believe that you deserve, then I think that you're missing the point. And I mean that with all of the love of my heart, but I truly think that you're confused. I think we take, and this is where I wanted to get to with my own evolution of what has been going on, like how I see my situation of alienation and alienation as a whole. I didn't realize that I still had this belief system construct in my mind that was keeping me resistant, angry, and at odds with, I was saying it last week, with stepmom, even her dad somewhat. Like, I've let most of the anger go with him, but then there's stepmom that I had been very angry and resistant to. And it's all been coming to a head over the last 8 weeks or so. If you've noticed, I think I have been talking about it a little bit more in the episodes, and it was my way of working it out. And what I realized, along with the interactions, I guess, that I was having with the naysayers of parental alienation, and a couple other ongoing conversations that I was having with some of the other mental health professionals in the field, I realized that, for me anyway, the term parental alienation, I'll still use it, I think, but was causing me it had become a limiting belief or something I could blame. It was causing me to feel resistance, right? I just know that for me, the reason I think I thought to use it for so long was actually kind of backwards because, and again, not giving it up, I think that from here on out, there needs to be more context for me because just saying parental alienation feels like weaponizing and also at the same time stigmatizing because of all of this people getting up in arms and like these quote unquote women's moms rights groups that are against parental alienation, the naysayers, because of all of their efforts, with like Hayden's Law and then all of the misinformation, disinformation that is going out to the public due to some of their efforts and what have you. And then, of course, just lack of information on the general public's part. I feel like the term parental alienation has sort of, it was stigmatizing before, like the situation that we're in was stigmatizing, right? Because what have you done in order to be rejected? No child ever rejects their parents, right? That was how it was just before I had a name for what was going on. And then when I had the name parental alienation, I discovered that there was a name, there was an instant relief, but I was just describing this in an email to somebody and I'm still getting the words around it, but it also felt like a terminal diagnosis. It felt equally as disempowering as it felt relief. So you get the diagnosis, you're like, oh gosh, we can solve it. And then you realize what alienation is. And then you're like, no, this is just like a sentence, a life sentence. It feels awful, right? And so it was equally this relieving, empowering, disempowering, all in the same cloud. And Craig Childress points this out, as do a few other of the professionals out there, that when we use parental alienation only, right, and we don't actually address the abuse that is happening, we do ourselves and our children a disservice because we set ourselves apart and we're also concealing, helping to hide the abuse that's actually happening, helping to hide the pathology itself. Just like shame. You know how when I talk about shame, shame likes to lurk in the shadows? So does the pathology, the dysfunction of parental alienation. So, and I also think that because when I was thinking, oh, it's all because of the parental alienation, I can't do this because I'm an alienated parent. I blah, 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 because I'm alienated. It was like this whole limiting belief, like weight that had been on me. And I think is still lifting from me since the day that I learned that there was this term, right? I felt like, what can I do with this? Where can I go? Because there is no solution for this. Well, there's no solution for it because it's not even diagnosable, just using the term parental alienation. Thus far, it's not in the DSM. I don't know if it ever is going to be in the DSM, right? And so, but also too, that term is so polarizing and so stigmatizing that I feel like we kind of shut ourselves back into this corner using it and only it. I do believe it accurately explains what we as the alienated parents feel, right? But it's not a comprehensive explanation. And I don't know if there are the perfect terms for this. All I know is I like to judge how I feel inside when I say something. And right now, I'm not loving that standalone label. Does that make sense? Again, doesn't mean I'm not going to use it. I just think it well deserves an and with context. Describing the pathology, what actually the dynamics of it for you specifically. Each case is a little bit different. So how the symptoms show up for you specifically, right? Addressing that is where your power lives. If you want to feel empowered like today, address how it's affecting you. And then you can decide, is it really affecting me this way? Where can I find my power in it? Right? How can we address this to the courts, to your children, depending on your situations? It can be so many different ways, but my job is to help you with your healing, yourself, so that you can go back out and advocate for your children if that's what's in the cards for you, if that's what you want to do. But regardless, we got to work on functioning and evolving. And so the way that we do that is by stopping the cycles. So again, this is just personal opinion, and I'm not the psychologist that would give you the actual accurate answer here. But I truly believe that those of us as alienated parents, rejected parents, I think if we had a strong sense of self when we got together with the other parent, if the other parent is who is alienating you, then alienation would never have ensued to begin with. It would not have been possible for alienation to take hold. But because we probably, this is my theory, grew up in a family where we were in the position of taking on the anxiety and stressors of other people in the family. We accommodated and absorbed the dysfunction, the high-low emotions of everybody else in the family. Then if you were like the go-to person that sort of either cared for, or you were the funny one to relieve, like you felt the anxiety as a kid and you felt it was your job to fix in some way, shape, or form, and you never address that in between then as a child and your relationship with the person who's alienating your children from you, then it makes sense that when that relationship broke up, that you would also want to absorb, if we're looking at triangulation, absorb any sort of anxiety or guilt or shame or stress that you thought your child was going to feel, and tried to take that on as your own. Pathological parent decided to make them their partner. Child all of a sudden got promoted up into this role of parent. So in order to fix that, like in family systems therapy, I'd been looking at family systems theory since I was back up on the house on the hill when I first moved in. I can remember having no furniture in the house, and right before getting ready to go back to court for the last time that I did, me doing all this research on family systems and looking at minutia and sort of cherry-picked information that I wanted to utilize and remember for the court hearing. And then I've gone back since to that information, the same papers, the same studies. And each time, I guess, allowing myself to sort of apply a little bit more, but it always seemed to be, I wanted to like point fingers at and explain why the pathology was there, right? Oh, it's the stepmom. She's the crazy one. She's BPD. It's my daughter's father. NPD traits. They're the problem. And I am just the unlucky person that got stuck with this. My daughter obviously is the most unlucky, but they're demonizing me. What I didn't realize is that I was trying to demonize them back. We can't fight fire with fire, y'all. It doesn't work. When we're weaponizing the word parental alienation and trying to demonize the sick parent actually, as being the devil and being the complete asshole and the cause for everything. Now, I'm not saying that they're not at fault. You still had to play a part in it. You still had to play a very integral part in it. And so when we understand as a whole that this dynamic is off and that the roles are reversed and it's basically a sick family unit. I used to always think that the only way to solve this whole situation of alienation is for the child to go no contact with the pathogen, the person who caused all this alienation to begin with. They need to go no contact. In order to recover our children, we needed to remove them from the influence of the sick person. But what I realized is that thinking was actually going against everything I believe. Because what do I teach you guys? What do I share with you guys? And I do take a lot of pride in the way my approach to my own healing, your healing, and the consistency with my beliefs and how I can apply everything that I teach throughout to all areas of your life, right? And no one factor will switch or change or reverse any of my beliefs. Like, I really follow all of my principles through. There's no exceptions to the rules. But what I didn't realize is this sneaky one was not a little hanger-oner. This was a very large hitchhiker. If I'm believing that in order to solve this, that we need to remove part of the equation, well, guess what? That part of the equation, right? That family member, even if it's a step parent, it took a lot for me to get here, y'all. I will always be fearful and be thinking about the threat of that parent, step parent, whoever entering back into the family, getting their dirty, grubby paws around my child again. That's the way that I was thinking before. Like, they need to be eliminated and eradicated, like shipped off into, what do they do? Exile island. That's how I believe. I mean, I didn't think that there needed to be an exile island, but just like, it's not a terrible idea. No, I'm just kidding. No, it can't work that way. That is not my way anyway. And it is not rooted in love. In fact, family systems theory, family systems therapy actually is the most holistic approach. And I would argue, I have not gone through the therapy, but I would argue, I mean, it is in full alignment with my everything, all the other principles in my life and what I teach here with you guys, is that everybody that was involved in the dysfunction needs to also be involved in the healing and reconstruction of the recovery of, in order for it to work functionally, properly, like a well-oiled machine. Now, what are the chances of the alienating parent willingly participating? I'm not sure. I don't know. That is something that I actually messaged my former attorney about that, the one who actually brought this up, reintroduced family systems therapy to me. I just brought it up to her and she's not sure of the numbers, but I am willing to bet that this is the way to recovery, to a full recovery for any family that is going through this, so long as everybody participates. Like I said, we cannot change what the other people do. But as far as your recovery and the way you're thinking about your situation, the other parent, or whoever's alienating your kids from you, my little lesson, or what I'm wanting to share with you guys and pass on to you guys, is that it could be that you are unknowingly demonizing the other parent, like in the name of parental alienation, and it could be fucking with you, right? Just like it was causing me to hold on, think of them as evil and bad, and they're the problem. They're what we need to eliminate, eradicate, exile, right? They're bad and they're terrible. And you know what? It took this last week since the last episode for me to completely turn around. And you know what? I have compassion for her today. I shit you not. Because of the way that I'm seeing her in my head, I now see her as, listen, this clearly happened with her because of whatever happened in her past. She is only projecting, outsourcing her insecurity onto my child. And I don't mean only like she's not doing any harm. She's done, her behavior and the coercive control exercised on her part has done a lot of damage, irrevocable damage. So there's that. I'm not saying it's not serious, but me taking the approach that she is dangerous and gross and bad and needs to be removed only hurts me and possibly my child and everybody involved too, because I'm now still resisting that. And that's not going to get me anywhere. It's only going to eat me up inside. I'd much rather feel love and understanding and compassion and not like exhaust myself from ego. You know what I'm saying? I'd so much rather. I don't want to suffer. Choosing the other way, choosing to hate her and resent her and stay angry and look at her as demonize her, I'm doing the very thing that she's doing out of fear for the very same reasons. You see? Because I'm talking about the stepmom, if she is so insecure that she needs to control this little triangle of my daughter, me, and her, she wants to do whatever she can to make my daughter and her be at the same level and exile me, right? When I'm trying to do the same thing with her, it doesn't make sense. I'm fighting fire with fire, and it's just not, it doesn't help. So anyway, if you're using parental alienation as like a way for you to limit yourself and fuel your anger, I just want to encourage you to include include the context of the pathology, include what is actually happening and why, like to your best knowledge, like clearly a person that is coercing a child or anybody really is doing it because of their own feelings of inadequacy, of not enoughness, fear of abandonment, of not being loved and needed by somebody. And so they project that onto us, cast that onto us so that they don't get abandoned, feel abandoned. It is faulty wiring on their part. It's so illuminating, I think, when you understand why people are doing what they're doing. Anyway, okay, listen, dads, again, happy Father's Day. I hope this episode helped to just help you to restructure, reframe the way that you're looking at your situations of alienation, and that you can endure anything that you put your mind to. And is there even anything to endure anyway? It's the story that you've attached to it. You could look at this as if there was an imbalance in your childhood and you did not develop the strong sense of self, that this is the path that's going to help you to develop. It's giving you the tools. Like, here you go. Being an alienated parent and choosing to advocate for yourself and for your children, you will develop a strong sense of self in doing this work, So I truly believe that the challenges that come before us are always to grow us. Anyway, happy Father's Day, y'all. And to the rest of y'all, I will see y'all next week.